Well, it's been roughly 9 months since the Saints Row reboot was released, and we finally have the first story expansion in the form of the Heist Hazardous DLC. On top of that, Volition has released the Sunshine Springs update. So we might as well take a look and see if the game has been heavily improved and if the expansion was worth the wait. Starting with the update, we have a new district, quality of life changes, and an absurd amount of bug fixes. Just taking a look at the official news post on Saints Row's website, I don't think there's a single element of this game that hasn't been mended in one way or another. Though with that said, this game still has some glaring defects. Glitches like customized weapon skins not saving and challenges not tracking are still present, plus you're still guaranteed to run into a handful of bugs in any given session. Overall, the game is in a better state, but there is still a lot of polishing that still needs to be done. As for quality of life changes, we have a mixed assortment of fan-requested features, alterations, and oddly enough, even removed content.
Is this a joke?
Yeah, some of the more revolting lines of dialogue have been altered, but mostly they've been flat out cut. These include the AF line to Kevin and everyone's favorite, the horse testes rant.
Giant, sweaty, dangling horse testes just swinging in the goddamn breeze, knocking back and forth like a pair of motherfucking clappers in a giant horse flesh crotch bell.
Honestly, I just find it absurd that a game can have content taken out and it's considered a quality of life improvement. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for it, but will any of this save the game's story? No.
Absolutely fucking not.
Onto one of the new features, we have selfie mode. Now don't let the name fool you, selfie mode is essentially a photo mode where you can position the camera around your player. At a first glance, this seems really cool, but once you start messing around with it, you start to notice some glaring flaws. Unlike other photo modes, you can't detach the camera from your player, it can only be used while on foot, and the game doesn't pause while selfie mode is active. This severely limits the type of shots you can take, especially if you want to capture some epic gunfights. You can't hold a weapon while in selfie mode, and taking any damage will automatically close it out. I think the feature should have functioned similar to Saints Row the Third, where you can snap a still frame at any time, but then allow you to position the camera where you want. I don't know, maybe I've been spoiled by tools like Nvidia's photo mode and slew, but I was really hoping there'd be more freedom here. And funny enough, there isn't even an option to take a photo once you position everything to your liking. I mean, it's not like it's hard to still take a screenshot, but that still feels like a major oversight. But at the very least, the interface is straightforward, you can pause emotes, and you can cycle through facial expressions. For casual players, you'll get some use out of selfie mode, but I feel like there's a lot of room to make it better. Since the update's announcement back in March, arguably the most anticipated quality of life improvement has been the overhaul to combat. And after trying it out, the best way I can describe it as is... I mean, there is a noticeable improvement for the flow of combat, but when it comes to pre-existing problems like aiming, it sadly doesn't feel much different. I even went back and played the game without the update, and the only change I noticed was for the aim acceleration. I was really hoping the update was going to give us a closer aim style to Saints Row the Third, but sadly, you're still either fighting against the controls or cruising with a GTA Snap style. I can at least say enemies are now more enjoyable to fight. There's been a variety of small tweaks such as your kicks being undodgeable and enemies being able to take damage while dodging, which keeps firefights more engaging. Hit points for standard troops has also been drastically decreased, making bullets actually feel like, bullets. However, specialists and armored troops are still complete bullet sponges, giving you this conflicting combination of pragmatic and nonsensical gunplay. So the combat may be slightly better, but I just hope Volition continues to improve it. Something I was really surprised to learn is that mugging has been added. At launch, it was quite disappointing to see a staple of the series missing. So let's see how it is now. Alright, fool, give me your money! Yeah, that's it. Now just hand me the... Wait, what are you doing? Why are you... Okay, screw this. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, this is clearly broken and unfinished. Even if you mug a regular pedestrian, they'll hold up their hands for a second before freaking out without dropping any money. The only positive I can say is that some NPCs will attempt to fight back, so this might be cool if it's ever finished. I don't know, screw it, let's move on. Some final quality of life changes include an emote wheel, being able to change the name of vehicles, better motorcycle controls, I think, and probably my favorite new improvement, more weather states. Funny enough, these weather effects were apparently meant to be in the game at launch, but weren't properly working. And honestly, that's quite a shame because this overcast state alone makes Santo Ileso visually a lot more pleasing. Something I forgot to mention in my review is that a majority of your time playing in the open world, the city has this yellowish-orange tint that quickly becomes exhausting to look at. I only wish the overcast weather was the default because it's quite rare to come across it in a single session. And on to the last big inclusion of the update, let's take a look at the new district, Sunshine Springs. As you probably heard by now, it's a quite small location, but the aesthetic of the resort is honestly top-notch. From the luxurious mansions, glitzy artwork, to the flashy vehicles, you really do get a sense that Sunshine Springs is for the top elites living in Santo Ileso. Though of course, it suffers from the same problems as the rest of the city. There isn't a single new interior to explore, and NPCs are still just a backdrop to the environment. However, I almost thought Volition found a new way around this by introducing a new enemy into the district. Sadly, I only have limited footage of this, but when I was first exploring Sunshine Springs, there was Chicken Ned mascots on nearly every block. Like the pimps in Saints Row 2, they felt essentially like an unofficial gang. I would engage with one when suddenly a whole group would appear out of nowhere and whoop my ass. They were unpredictable, and it added a fun level of randomness which made the NPCs from the earlier games so memorable. Since then though, I haven't encountered a single Chicken Ned. I tried leaving and coming back, loading different saves, but whatever I did, they simply wouldn't appear. I've even asked other people in the community and they have no idea what I'm talking about. So I guess it was just a glitch or something, and that really sucks because it was the most fun I had roaming in a Saints Row game in a really long time. When it comes to diversions in Sunshine Springs, the district offers 5 new threats, an action riding shotgun side hustle, 11 new discoveries, and 1 new clothing store. And what a clothing store it is. All this content will likely take you an hour or less to complete, so I'll leave it up to you whether or not it's worth hopping back in to see. And with all that, let's finally dive into the Heist Hazardous expansion. Considering that this pack didn't release until 9 months after the reboot's launch, I wouldn't blame you for expecting a modest amount of missions and content. Well, this $10 expansion offers 3 new missions, 1 activity, a handful of cosmetics, and 1 new weapon and vehicle. And yeah, that's it. For new players, I'm sure they'll find this expansion underwhelming, but even for older fans familiar with Volition's DLC model, this pack still comes across incredibly rushed. It takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes to complete all 3 missions, which by itself isn't great, but what's even worse is you can't even replay them. It's simply baffling that every other story expansion Volition has made has allowed you to replay the DLC levels, but suddenly it's not an option here. Not that you'd want to replay all the missions, as we'll soon see, but at the very least, the heist itself offers enough variety that you'd want to play it a few more times. But okay, is the story and levels at least enjoyable? Well, Mission 1 has you travel to a gun range in Sunshine Springs to eliminate a $1 million wanted target for a mysterious client. Once you arrive, you have to fight your way through an assortment of mercenaries attempting to claim the bounty for themselves. It becomes your standard gunning from A to B with 1 or 2 scripted obstacles to prevent you from running in a straight line. You eventually reach the target and have a small boss battle, or you can completely skip this by using the Thruster Buster. So yeah, normally a mission this simplistic would be fine in the base game, but being 1/3 of a DLC isn't too gratifying. The mission ends with the boss meeting the bounty client, who turns out to be action star RPG gameplay Chris Hardy. He explains with the target being dead, he can move forward with an autobiographical movie that he's funding with props from his older films. Things then take a drastic turn when instead of Hardy paying the player, they're given a signed autograph and are swiftly escorted off the premises.
We've created a set of characters that you're going to want to invite into your living room every day.
You wake up on a riverbank and that's it. Rather than heading back up to the mansion, killing everyone in sight and just taking the valuable memorabilia as payment, the boss returns home and decides to set up an elaborate heist to steal the memorabilia. Okay. On to Mission 2, this is without a doubt the weakest level of the DLC. It starts with a cutscene of the crew going over their plans on a whiteboard. Basically, they first need to take pictures of Chris Hardy in order to replicate his appearance using hologram tech to then use it as a disguise to steal the movie props during an auction. It's already been mentioned that it makes no sense why they need pictures of Hardy when, you know, he's a celebrity, but I find it more perplexing that they suddenly have access to this holo generator. In fact, I have a theory that there's originally going to be an alternate objective here or even an additional mission where you would have stolen it. See, Sunshine Springs has this Marshal station that basically goes unused. I wouldn't be surprised if the original idea was to go here, steal the holo generator from one of the specialists, and escape. However, Kevin just happens to know a fence who recently acquired one. Back to the mission, you meet up with your crew at a cafe where Hardy's known to visit weekly, then you stealth past his bodyguards and wait until he's in position to get the shots. You know, since Hardy doesn't know who Eli, Kevin, and Nina are, why don't they just take the shots instead of the boss risking being spotted? Whatever, so you stealth to the 3 spots, take the scans, and leave, taking no less than 4.5 minutes to complete. I can at least say these missions don't feel padded out like previous DLCs where you're forcing the tedious 10-minute on-rail sections. Here, though, you almost wish there was a bit of padding, just anything to keep from completing the DLC so quickly. Alright, on to the final mission and the highlight of the expansion. The boss infiltrates the auction using the hologram disguise, where you then have to walk around and blend in.
I have my eye on that Illuminati crown!
Cool. Let's hope no one tries to steal it, right?
After a bit, you help Eli sneak in and immobilize the marshal guards in the control room. From this point, you disable the holo generator and have to evade a laser detection grid to reach the vault. I do appreciate that Volition found a fun way to mix up the gameplay here, but I only wish they didn't make it so easy to bypass. Once you do reach the vault, you're stopped by a group of marshal troops and discover Hardy was onto your plan all along. However, it's revealed the crew was expecting this, and Nina and Kevin were already in the vault preparing the door to blow.
Welcome to Phase 2, motherfucker.
So you steal the memorabilia, store the goods in a getaway vehicle, fight your way to the rooftop, and take a new Marshal helicopter. From here, it becomes your objective to defend Kevin and Nina as they're pursued by Marshal Rent-A-Cops. This oddly feels familiar.
You're like a guardian angel.
Oh no. Oh god, no! After a few minutes of blowing up vehicles and a couple aircrafts, you're required to position the chopper in front of Hardy's mansion to catch the getaway vehicle with the tether. Or not. I thought it would have been cool if the DLC was unconnected and it was like... Oh. I wasn't paying it. That's a better ending. Yay!
That's the canon ending. Yay, that's over.
Yay.
No more.
So, you escape with the goods, Hardy can't afford to produce his film and has to pay Marshall for the damages, and the crew triumphantly walks towards the camera in a freeze frame. The end. I'll admit it's a decent conclusion to the DLC, but it doesn't make up for the other two lackluster missions. Maybe if it had a bit more going for it, I'd be more forgiving. Like, imagine playing in co-op, your partner had to drive the getaway vehicle. That would have made the ending a lot more epic and memorable. After completing the heist, you unlock Hardy's mansion as a crib. Yeah, there's finally a real crib in the game now, and Lord behold, it even has an interior. One of the rooms displays props from the vault that are callbacks to the previous Saints Row entries. We have a Killbane cutout, Zemos' microphone, a Joe Magarat statue, Sid, even though he's facing the wrong way, and some gold-plated guns from Saints Row 4. What, you were expecting references to Saints Row 1 and 2? But I'll admit, it's a nice crib. Now we just need 8 more of them spread around the city. Before wrapping up on this expansion, let's quickly look at the last pieces of content. The Kaiju Wingsuit Challenge is honestly a welcome new addition and would have been a standout activity in the base game. It's essentially just flying through rings under a time limit, but it offers a decent challenge and can be quite fun. But I feel there's a really missed opportunity here for a certain reference. The new Marshall helicopter is just okay, but the Pain and Gain weapon is easily my favorite inclusion of the DLC. It's enjoyable to use, provides a lot of physics-based havoc, and can be used to launch the player into the air to then activate the wingsuit. In conclusion, the expansion can provide some entertainment, but is flawed by a short campaign, a lack of replayability, and overall content.
Fuck.
Even if you were to argue the update makes up for the DLC shortcomings, you're still only looking at a few hours of new gameplay. Anyhow, there you have a look at the Sunshine Springs update and the Heist Hazardous expansion. Now, some people have wanted my opinion if all this and the future expansions will be enough to save the game, and all I have to say is, no.
Absolutely fucking not.
Volition can cut dialogue, keep tweaking gameplay, and expand the map all they want, but none of this will make up for the game's rotten core. It's like fixing a leak in a dam with a few sticks of gum. And it's been said before, but the reboot needs an expansion on the level of Ballad of Gay Tony to get things back on track. Though seeing that the next DLC is linked to Boot Hill Island and the August expansion, is tied to LARPing, I don't see them pulling it off. Well everyone, I hope you at least enjoyed the video. If you'd like to give your thoughts on Saints Row's current predicament, please feel free to leave a comment below. And before ending today's video, I'd like to give a major special thanks to my Patreon sponsors. John, Sam Just, Delta, Big G, Gabriel Snyder, Fluffy Tail, Pokedex, David Snoopy, EMC Mend, Sepher Rifle, and Xavier Rivera. Like always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.
I am a gangster. I am a gangster.
How much do you want to bet that was the auditions for the Saints in the reboot?